Okay, so I thought that this video could include weddings and funerals. So we'll do weddings first because it's more fun, right? Because everybody gets married in the summer, well, year round, but in the summer there's a lot of weddings. So the sign for wedding is wedding because you're holding hands. Usually when you're at a wedding, you're holding hands. So it's holding the hands. And then you have a bride and a groom. And a bride is holding the flowers. Right? So this is a bride. This is the bride. So the bride's maids, you have them move because they walk down the aisle, they stand there. For a groom, you could do it two different ways. Usually most people spell it. G, remember we did our alphabet, and review that, groom. And you can do the groomsmen, or if you really wanted to do it in strong ASL, you could say a man and a woman get married. They stand there, and then you could have that, and so the men over here and the women over here, right? You could have your bridesmaids and your groomsmen that way. But if you're just like, oh, I don't know if I can do all that, you can just do grooms and then his men, you know, whatever. But you could spell groomsmen, or I'm the best man, or the best man. You can spell it. Sometimes it's more fun to have a sign. Ring bearer. You could ring. This is a wedding ring. You put it on the left hand in America. On the fourth finger, a ring bearer. See, they're carrying it. Usually on a pillow. Nowadays they do all kinds of fun things with it, but ring bearer. So you have the bride and her bridesmaids, and you have the groom and his foreman, or you can say groomsmen. You could do that. So you have that. Now, you could also say the future wife or the future husband. Wife, husband. Remember, everything on down here is for female, and everything up here is for male. You could do that. You could do it the future husband or the future wife. So married. Then they are normally they're married by somebody who marries them, and a lot of times it's a pastor. Remember we did preacher with your FN shape. A preacher or a pastor. A priest if it's Catholic. This would be a priest because they're collar. But if it's someone I was like, oh, my best friend's gonna marry us, or his friend from high school or whatever, you could do that. If it's someone who is not a clergy, but they are legally allowed to marry someone. So that's that. And of course the cake, and then you would do a cake. And if they have like a square one, you know, you could really show the shape of the cake or how many tiers it is just by using the classifiers of a cake. It's like 4, yeah. And they have the cutest, you know, little, you know, husband and wife, you know, standing there, or they have little cute things, or the grooms, apostrophe S, grooms, cake. Or I had a friend of mine, her daughter had these really beautiful cupcakes. You could do it this way or this way. Cookies, cupcakes. I usually turn my hand upside down so it won't be confused with cookies, but I think she had some cookies and some wedding cookies and some cupcakes, and it was really cute. I had cupcakes. So you can do all these variety of different things, and you can even show it how they have a whole bunch. Remember we did a line, and this is a line, and this is really a long line, so they have a lot of groomsmen, you know, they had all and bridesmaids. A lot of people have a lot of them. Some of them have like 4 or 5. Just depends on how big the wedding is. They usually include their friends and things like that. So, and then rings. And then remember we did engagement ring before with our E handshake. This is married. This is engaged. So it's the same movement. Married, engaged. So I went to a wedding, and then the bride was beautiful. Her dress was gorgeous. And it had the spaghetti straps, and it had all this lace, and you could do all that and show that with classifiers. And the groom was so handsome. Remember we did that one, that sign for handsome, and a bow tie and a black tux, fancy. And then her bridesmaids, they had on gorgeous dresses too, different colors, like a rainbow. And then the groom's men, they had on different color tux, and to match. And so they walked down the aisle, and then the ring bearer, they had a girl and a boy. They were so cute. And the girl, she did the flowers, and she threw them, and she had the groom's ring attached to the basket. And then the ring bearer, little boy, he was so cute, and it was a pillow, and the ring was tied onto it, and it was moving back and forth because he was doing this. You can really have fun with it. So flowers, and they were just so beautiful. She had, white orchid, and different types of flowers. So you can show that, even if it was outside wedding, or if it was inside, or if it was at like a hotel or a church, but it was outside at a park or her family's, backyard. It was big, it was beautiful, or is at the beach. So different ways to show the wedding. Then let's shift to a funeral. And so that's a procession. People walking in a procession to the funeral. So now we have all these cars really that follow, but this is the sign for funeral. So we went to a funeral, and we went to the church first. And if you went to the funeral home and had the funeral there, that's fine. So, or if you had the funeral there at the church. So a funeral home or a church, they had the funeral. And everyone, they gave such, wonderful and beautiful messages about that grandmother or whoever had died. And you can talk about the flowers again, and then you can say, oh, then we drove out to the cemetery. And of course, this is the mounds of dirt. So we all went to this procession to the cemetery. It was not far. And then you can talk about the grave, cemetery, and then the graves where they lower the coffin into the ground. And so that's how that's done. And so you can say, oh, and I would spell coffin, and then everyone had flowers from the spray, and then dropped it into there, and then they were lowered in, or however that funeral went. And then you can say the priest or the preacher, spoke. I wouldn't say talk. I would say this is a speech, or a presentation. So I would say, oh, the preacher spoke, and it was a beautiful, and everyone was crying, and I would do widow, W-I-D-O-W, widow, or the widower. You could do it with the W. because they're single now, and a lot of people just spell it, or that that grandmother, her husband had already died. Remember, died, because it's like you're taking, like if you were holding someone's body and then you put them into the ground. Died. Her husband died 20 years ago, something like that. So you could discuss that. And then, of course, everyone discusses the food. And we've had some discussion about food. You can say funeral potatoes, and they were really good. Or they brought lasagna, but it was already, separate. Really good. Or they had, it was a luncheon, and then they had these sandwiches, or they could have, like chicken salad, or the different things. So we've already done a lot of the food that would be at a, in general. So we did like Thanksgiving food and Christmas food, and so funeral food and um, wedding food is kind of the same. So you could say, oh, at the wedding we had a sit down dinner, it was really wonderful. We had chicken, and we had, and then asparagus. Remember, we had asparagus, but you'd have to spell it asparagus. There's not really a sign for asparagus unless it's an area where it would have a lot of it, which I'm not familiar with that. And then they had potatoes, or the wedding was up north, where they grow potatoes, and so they had these really cute dessert. It looked like potatoes, but it was a really chocolate, that kind of thing. And then at a funeral, you would have all the different, everyone brings like, like macaroni, like this is spaghetti, lasagna, macaroni, so it's the same shape, macaroni salad or macaroni and cheese. It was really good. It was all the comfort food, so you could show that. So this is really kind of a short video, but I really wanted to put in there because most people go to a wedding or a funeral, regularly. So just enjoy the practice. I'm gonna say have fun with it, but just you can enjoy the practice and really see it and notice it. And the next time you go to a wedding or a funeral, or people talk about that, notice the signs that they use, and so that way you can practice easier and better. But everyone kind of experiences that, so it's good to know those signs as well. So have a good day and enjoy and practice. Bye.